Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Gone Diggin live from the Relic Room. Really excited to be back on the live stream this evening. I hope everyone is as well. It's really awesome. We've got 20 folks hanging out already here in the chat, and here with us tonight. Nugget Shooter Journals, Bill Southern first in the chat. Mark Sexton was next. Punching Plug CF, I hope you made it home safely. Drive safe, my friend. He said he's going to run home to make the chat. Show Me Dirt, Beth Jarvis, Sift and Shovels Relics is here. Excuse me. Kent, old Kent from New Kent. Kent Rwandi, nice to see you in here. Finders, Keepers, Cannon Fodder, J Mart. Of course, Jamie Henley, who's not in the chat, but decides to call me in the middle of the live stream. So, boo to you, Jamie. Random Rob. Cry for Dawn. Larry Stewart. Mental Metal. Scott, thank you for the congratulations. That is awesome. John Klopp. Hello. This is a never miss unless in the field. Well, I appreciate that. There's a lot more folks here hanging out with us tonight. But real quick, I hope everybody had a great week. I wanted to stop in. I got a little piece of mail real quick, and this is pretty cool. So I want to look at this. I want you guys to show you this. This is Carolina's Lost Relic Hunters, Recovering Lost History. That is a really awesome Facebook group from Greg Knuckles. And so since we got it, thanks, Greg. I appreciate that. Nichols. We'll go ahead and put that on for the stream. Pretty excited about that shirt. I bet you'll see it in the field a lot. But anyway, we've got a great stream tonight. I don't want to run things too long with this stuff. But tonight we have Alan Devier. Alan runs a charter service out of Charleston, South Carolina called Holy City Divers. And what he specializes is diving and looking for lost history on the bottom of the Cooper River right outside of Charleston. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see if we can bring Alan in. There we go. How are we doing, Alan?
Good. How's it going, Matt?
Great, man. I'm absolutely super excited to have you on the show and talk about everything that you do. So you run diving charters out of Charleston, right?
I do, and mainly the Cooper and the Wando River, blackwater diving.
Okay.
Egg teeth, artifacts, all kinds of treasures.
Pretty much anything anybody could imagine finding, somebody's lost it on the bottom of a river, right?
Absolutely, and Charleston's a history-rich area, so we find everything from fossils to bottles from the 1700s to musket balls, you name it.
So maybe you can let's start at the beginning. So, were you a diver? How did you get into diving? And then what was the transition into saying, man, I think other people would like to do this?
Well, I kind of got into the river diving aspect of it, I guess, by accident. I started out, diving our offshore wrecks here. And here in Charleston, you got to get 30 or 40 miles offshore to get to some good clear water and good wrecks. And of course, we would get blown out a lot of canceled trips. And just by chance, one of the other divers on a trip one day asked me, did I want to go dive in Cooper? I went with him and found a meg tooth that day, and the rest is kind of history. I got hooked from that day on and started diving the rivers more than I was diving the ocean. A couple of thousand dives later, I really started, thinking back on how much satisfaction I got out of holding that first meg tooth or that first 300-year-old bottle that I found, and thought it'd be nice to take other people out and give them that same satisfaction,
So when when you were diving offshore, what kind of and maybe we can jump back a little bit even further. For me, I think it's all treasure, and can't like, was it something like, were you a treasure hunter to begin with, or were you just a recreational diver?
I was more of a recreational diver, spear fisherman, but I've always been interested in the history part of it. And I moved to Charleston in '07, and that's when I really started getting more and more interested in the historic side of it and the fossil layer that's here and so forth. But it's always been an interest of mine. But when you move to somewhere like this, it's like moving to Disney World if you're a kid, like right in the middle of it, if that's what you love.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of people really, I'm the same way. We live right in the middle of the heart of the Civil War, but you're in the middle of colonial America down there.
Yeah, we find things from the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, and lots of that stuff we find while we're actually hunting fossils. We'll be after a giant meg tooth, and we'll find a nice black glass mallet bottle or onion bottle or distillery bottle or something like that.
So a lot of the folks who don't know, maybe you can explain as well, is how did you get your fossil knowledge? It's interesting to think that, I know that there's books on the American Civil War and there's books on the Revolution, but as far as knowledge of fossils, there's books, but I don't know where they are.
Yeah, it's, I guess the more you enjoy something, the more you'll find that material. But I don't think anything replaces being out there and doing it and learning from others. And, I've had a couple of really good mentors in the past, that are paleontologists who, spent a couple of days on the Cooper River with me. I learned more in those 2 days about the layers there than I'd learned in the 2 years before. And, it's just people that's been doing it 25 or 30 years have taught me a lot. But ripping on the bottom of the river. And, I dive year round. The water temperature is like 50 here, and this is my time to find new sites. I have a long list of new sites that every other diver hasn't taken people to when charters really pick up in the springtime.
Right. I think that's pretty important. Something that you kind of touched on is you had mentors, right? I think that with all of us, whether we were metal detectorists or we like to dig bottles or you like to dive, I mean, mentors really, kind of instilled the passion for the hobby. I think in all of us.
Absolutely.
It's interesting. So your mentors were, you said, paleontologists?
Paleontologist. One was a paleontologist who had studied the layers around Charleston. He doesn't live here anymore, but he had studied these layers and written papers on them back when he was in school. So I guess this area always will have a special place in his heart. So when he was coming through for a few days, I invited him to go out on a trip, and and he was good enough to spend a couple of days with me out there. And it's like with you guys, it's the old timers that's been doing this for 30 years. I think they wanted to carry on, but there's also a trust issue there on being able to keep these sites and respected, and it takes a lot to find them. So you don't want everyone to pillage them at the same time.
Yeah, and we've only been hanging out and talking for a few minutes, but I think the parallels in all of this sort of treasure hunting or metal detecting or exploring, whatever you want to call it, are that, they parallel. If I go out and find a site to go metal detect, or I think there's something shallow in the water, it's going to take a lot of trust to get folks, for me to want to bring somebody along. And, certainly you're in a little bit different business, but that's really cool that you gain that trust for those folks over the years of doing it.
Yeah, and that's what it takes. I think once somebody sees that you're as good as your word, it goes a long ways with them.
Yeah, it's that reputation. There's like this saying about what it takes to build a reputation, but it only takes one to knock it down to nothing.
Yeah, that's a true statement, no doubt.
One bad thing. It's very very interesting, and there's a lot of folks in here that whether you metal detect like Bill for gold on prospects or claims, it's a lot of that and that same kind of stuff. So going into the water, most people who imagine folks who scuba dive think of the Caribbean and Fiji or Hawaii, but for what you're doing, it's completely different.
Yeah, it is. It's a whole nother world. The main thing I tell people who have been diving clear water their whole life, is that it's like doing a night dive in the daytime, diving this blackwater. Mm-hmm. Once you get past 15 feet, the sun doesn't penetrate it any deeper. So if you turn your light off on the bottom at 25 feet or so, you can't see your hand in front of your face. So, we wear really bright lights on helmets, head mounted, most of us do. And during the winter, you may see 4 or 5 feet out there when you don't have the algae blooms and all. That's like Caribbean style viz, but normal is normal, 12 inches or so.
So, and I guess for the equivalent to folks who are watching in the chat or maybe watching this after the live stream, this is basically go find yourself a closet, go into that closet, make sure take you a towel and put it underneath the door jamb, and then turn the light off in that closet. I mean, is that a pretty good analogy?
Yeah, it really is. And, I have one of the number one questions, I have people ask when they call about charters, like, what certification do I need? Do I, need to be advanced or be a dive master, rescue diver, or what? And to me, it's not all about that certification. It's about if you're comfortable, in those conditions, because it goes against everything you're taught in your certification class about buddy diving and so forth. Even if you have a buddy with you, if he's 3 or 4 feet from you, you're not going to be able to see each other. So you're alone. And my guidance to all of them is you really need to know that you can take care of yourself if you get in trouble, and that you can not panic, because as long as you got that rag in your mouth and you're breathing, you can work your way out of any situation.
That's right. So somebody said in the chat they don't want to be a gator sandwich. Do you have alligators down there?
Yeah, we have gators, but those gators they don't want anything to do with us. If just like we have sharks that come up the rivers, but if they wanted to eat us, I would be eaten 12 times over by now. They really, in the summertime, there's hardly a time I go out without seeing a gator, at least on the boat ride. But I've never had any issues with them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool. So just for the folks in the chat while we're hanging out, I'm going to throw a little slideshow up, getting technologically advanced. And so we'll go through some of these pictures, and as we can, I'll see if I'll pause. If anybody has a question, please feel free to throw that into the chat. if you have a question about one of the pictures, please let me know, and we'll try to answer those as best we can. But so when you're talking about diving in layers, can you explain how that works under the bottom of the water?
So the Cooper, for example, is the teeth are coming out of mostly gravel bed type layers. Like some of it's black phosphate material, and I mean you can dive out there all day and see nothing but sand dunes if you don't know where these gravel beds are. And not every gravel layer has fossils in it either. So, one thing I'm always telling people on charters is to cover ground. When you run into that gravel, follow it to and when it's not producing for you, you got to move on, and that's really hard to do sometimes. But that's that's what I spend my time exploring, looking for is those gravel layers, the gravel veins. Here, and some of them are at 15 feet, some of them are at 55 feet. It's just according to where you're at.
And I think there's a lot of different things. It's just like fossils are completely different. They're kind of a renewable resource. If you find that area after a period of time, you'll get some more that wash out, right?
That's exactly right. I've got a lot of sites that you can go do really well at and go back 2 weeks later and do just as good.
But now on the artifact side, we know that we don't have colonial people walking around throwing bottles back in the water. It's that's an interesting thing, and some of those sites are concentrated, but sometimes they just wash down the river, right?
Yeah, to me the artifact sites are a lot tougher, to find, concentrated especially. And just like you said, they're I'm not going to say some don't erode out over the time because these currents are really strong, but I don't think they erode out at near the rate that the fossils do.
Right.
Because we've got so many different time periods for fossils.
So yeah, so as those pictures kind of scroll through, you're talking about let's talk about time periods of the fossils that you find. In fact, I'm going to pause it right here. There is a really large tooth that you're holding in your hand in this in this picture. Tell me about that fossil.
So that's a mastodon tooth.
So
that's a descendant of the woolly mammoth. The mammoth teeth, have more of they don't have the big chompers there, the big humps. So they fed on grass more, where the mastodon there, they were more of a limbs, trees type of feeder.
Right.
But that's they're a lot younger, 20,000 years compared to megalodons starting at 2 to 3 million.
Right.
Most scientists,
So the mastodon in this picture, so that's a 20,000-year-old fossil, which as fossils go is pretty young,
Sure, and it could be lots older than that, but it's not 18 million like some of these shark teeth.
Right. So as you move older, what's the next oldest items that you find or you run across?
Well, we find more shark teeth than anything, but on some of these pictures you can probably tell that some of them have cusp. All these finds in the slideshow are Cooper River finds. The megalodon teeth don't have the cusp. The ones we find in the Cooper with the cusp are called angustidens.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually the grandfather to the meg. So that's starting at, most of the scientists don't agree on all this, but I think most of them will agree that angustidens started around 22, 23 million years.
which is incredible. So for everybody looking in the picture that's up on the screen, you have a fossil range of everything from Makos, which are still around, all the way up to 20 million years old.
Absolutely, yeah. And like that picture, those finds are from one diver doing 3 dives in one day on the Cooper. Don't get me wrong, it was a good day.
Yeah, a good day. My gosh. So I guess the bucket in the back is just the busted ones that he didn't want to share.
Yeah, it's just ones that are broken in half or 3/4 of a tooth.
Yeah.
It's just too many to lay out to get in the picture.
Which, that's pretty wild. And there's the resurgence of interest in megalodons and stuff with the movies and stuff like that.
Sure.
But I think that's neat, because that's a piece of history that's really obtainable to a lot of people, whether and have you ever dove anywhere outside of Charleston for teeth?
Oh yeah, I've dove off the coast of North Carolina at the Meg Ledges, 110 feet of water, 45 miles offshore. It's kind of nice to go up there every now and then, because you don't need a light, it's all clear water. And you can find megalodon teeth there that are really big, nice teeth. And I've dove in Venice, Florida. It's a lot tougher down there because it's really easy diving. It's 30 feet deep. So you have, anyone that has a certification can dive there, and it's not any current to deal with. So you
have lots of folks who are out looking for teeth because it's easy.
But you have a lot of people diving, yeah. And there's, you don't have the current that you have in these rivers, so it's not eroding out as fast.
Right. So I mean, these kind of fossils and these kind of finds are really accessible to a lot of places. I know you can go to like Calvert Cliffs in Maryland, and you can continue up the East Coast and still find the right layer and find the places that produce finds like this. It's and it's right. Kent Rwandi says everybody wants a big shark's tooth, right?
Yeah, that's right. Everybody wants a big shark's tooth, but there's so much other stuff that's so cool out there to find.
It's really cool. And so, and with your diving, and you've actually seen, there's a couple other folks you've gotten to go and meet. In fact, you did a pretty cool charter a couple years, last year or the year before.
Yeah, year before with Jonathan Bird's Blue World.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of got I'd seen that charter, but I didn't realize that was yours. But that's really neat. He's a pretty notable guy.
Yeah, before I took those guys out, I hadn't watched any of his videos, but after that, I had lots of people approach me that had been following him for years.
Yeah.
But, he's a really motivated, happy, loves what he does, type guy, and it was definitely different diving for him, but he done really well.
Yeah,
I think he found like 3-4 inch teeth on his first or second dive.
So, and that's really cool. The other part of it is like right now there's a large Native American spear point on the slideshow that I've got it paused on. You find artifacts that are completely intact as well because they didn't get plowed up. We have a lot of Native American folks who collect Native American artifacts or walk plowed fields, and I personally have found broken ones. But like the one in that picture is absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever saw one any more beautiful than that one. The picture doesn't really even do it justice. It's so paper thin and sharp. I mean, it's really hard to wrap your head around it being as old as it is.
Yeah, strap it, and and compared to the fossils, that point isn't quite a Paleo age point, which is the oldest, but you
Right.
found Paleo age stuff that could have been hunting the mastodons.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's neat to me. That's just really neat to even consider the fact that these articles and these objects are so intertwined, and that really lend to what the history of the United States was before, we were here. So, yeah, I mean, somebody said, yeah, it looks like it's sharp. You could put that thing on a stick and get after cutting up a mastodon.
Oh, no doubt about it. And I mean, whether it's a fossil or a point, there's something really special about being the first person to hold it in your hand, since the last person that held it probably depended on that point to live.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, Sift and Shovel Relics asked, what, as a diver yourself, not somebody who just who does charters, but what do you have a passion for? What's your thing that you like to find the most?
Well, it's hard to get away from the big meg tooth fever. I guess I'll always, until I find one 7 inches, I'll always be hunting a giant meg tooth. But I really love it all. I mean, the rare things like you can find these jaguar canines and the really rare whale teeth, and I mean, I love it all. I'm starting to really like the bottles, the old black glass, and I'm starting to try to do a lot more research to find the old bottle dumps and ferry crossings and so forth around here, so where I can find more and more bottles and do some of those artifact charters.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So with looking for that 7-inch mag teeth, what's the largest tooth you found?
6.76.
Oh my gosh!
I found
That
several over 6.5, but I found one over 6 3/4.
over 6 3/4. That is incredible. And well, was it in good condition?
It was in really good condition. The serrations wasn't sharp, but the tooth was complete. All the enamel was there. It wasn't peeled or anything. Yeah, it looked 7 inches on the bottom, but I kind of thought it would probably come up just a little bit short, and it did.
Yeah, everything looks a little bit bigger on the bottom, right?
Yeah, say 30%.
Man, if that looked the same way up top, we'd all be good to go.
Yeah.
So, what else did I say? Kent Rwandi asked, what are the general overall condition of the teeth that you find? Are they broken? Are they wore out? Or, is it 50-50?
Well, the Cooper is probably 25% complete teeth. Just because but you find really large numbers, and you will run across that really pristine tooth. In the Wando, the teeth seem to be in better condition.
And do you think that's because of the tides, or that's just the nature of the area?
I I think it's the nature of the layer. There was a time that I thought, teeth got beat up by the tides going back and forth, but I've found teeth in several places in the Cooper coming straight out of the clay, and they were already worn and broken, so that kind of changed my whole view on that. I think it's very few of them that get their damage once they get into the river. I think they're already, damaged and worn in that layer.
Yeah, that's interesting, and yeah, I mean that's I guess in consideration, that they spend a lot more time underwater than we think, and they really probably weren't moving around for that long. Especially when you said earlier that there's much more competition. It's certainly not Florida level competition, but there's lots of other charters and stuff like that that you could go on. But we know we'd rather have folks go on your charter. But I think that plays into it, right? How long did a tooth really sit on the bottom?
Yeah, it does, and it does play into the color of it somewhat. But these teeth get the 90% of their color from the minerals in the soil that they were fossilized in. Rivers have reputations of putting out certain colored teeth and all, but it's not that river water that does it. It's the soil makeup and the materials that fossilized them.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. So I saw another good question in the chat. Bill Southern said, "Alan, you're amazing, and thanks for sharing. He's learned something already. Very cool."
That's awesome.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Because you know what, I think that it's the share and the passion of the hobby.
It is, and I mean, when somebody comes on one of these charters, I mean, I really I give it my all to put them on big teeth, and I think I'm really close to as excited as they are when they come up with a 5 or 6 inch meg. There's a lot of satisfaction in that. It makes me feel like the hard work that I put into getting out here when it's cold and diving and finding these new sites pays off. So,
do you have? I'm going to put the slideshow back up for everybody. Do you have a find that somebody came up with and you were just like, "Holy smokes! I was not expecting that."
Oh yeah, all the time. But I had a guy come this past summer with me here, and lots of people that come, they've never held a meg tooth, and we kind of take it for granted because we live in such a fossil rich area. But people come from all over the U.S. I've had people come from the United Kingdom, from Australia, but this guy, he had never held a meg tooth, and on his first dive he didn't find one. He had been diving for a while, but not blackwater diving, so he was kind of getting his bearings and everything on the first dive. And on the second dive, the tide had just went slack, and I had told him, he probably wouldn't have any visibility when he got to the bottom, but just give it a few minutes, and visibility would get good as the current picked up. So that current's kind of a double-edged sword there. But the more current you got, normally the better viz you have. But he did. He got to the bottom, and he had no viz, waiting on the current to pick up. I was feeling around and picked up a 6 1/8 inch meg.
Oh my gosh!
Laid his hand right on it. So the first one he ever put his hand on was 6 1/8.
Which is a size 2.
For the fossil guys out there, they know that a 6 inch meg is really hard to come by. You'll find 50 or 60, 5 3/4 or 5 7/8 before you'll find that 6 inch.
So when he came up, what was and he said he had found a tooth. What was your thought?
He found a big tooth. I mean, honestly, he didn't realize just what just how rare it was what he had. But he did within the next 10 minutes because there was other divers on the boat too.
Probably falling out and rolling around.
Yeah. We were all just blown away, But that broke the ice for him. That was the second dive of his first day, and he dove 2 days. And he did well every dive after that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think there's something to be said. Punch and Plug CF says, like digging a seated dime for your first coin. Yeah, I think that there's something to be said for a little bit of beginner's luck, but in all of this, if you put yourself in the place to be successful, you have better chances, right?
Absolutely. I always say you got to be on the river bottom, but that you can find them in creeks and all. But when we're out there on the boat talking and diving, um, we don't always have the best days, but it beats sitting on the couch. It's always
Yeah,
a good day.
absolutely. And that the best job you'll ever have in your life is the one where you never feel like you're having to work a day.
That's
You know.
right.
And that's cool, man. That's really awesome. Um, so the so there's a picture going through the slideshow that it's a part you holding a part of a shipwreck. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's I mean that was laying on a sand dune actually, and I just was moved it out of my way. I was hunting a gravel bed that I knew was close to that area, and I almost swam right over it. I just noticed a wooden dowel that was going through it, and it's the only thing that made me really give it a second look. You got to remember, I only I'm having 12 inches of visibility down there, so I
Right.
thought
So I mean
at first I
that
thought it
thing was
was
like
just a
right in
piece
front of
of
your
wood.
face, and you go, "Huh, maybe I should take
It
this
just
to the
happened.
top."
Yeah, and it was a job taking it to the top. But I think that the state will probably go survey the area. With that piece being on the sand, it makes me think there's probably more under that sand.
So, let's talk about that too. It's so you can go and look for fossils and things like that, but you can't just do it all willy nilly, right?
That's right. You've got to buy a hobby diver permit and do your reports like that piece there, for instance. I do an artifact report on it, and there there's a lot of controversy around the South Carolina laws right now, and everybody has their opinions, but we have it pretty good. We're able to get out here and do what we love to do, and it could be made easier to report, but hey, there's states where I'm sure you guys know how the artifacts in Florida's been for a while. At least we can get out here and find them and keep them as long as we report them. So
Right. And
I
and
try not to
so I
complain
mean
about our
for
laws.
for sake of the folks who hang out in metal detect, you know, to do it is one thing, but to do it right is another thing. Um,
That's exactly right.
you know,
It's
and
like covering your holes back up, right?
that's right. That's completely right. All it takes is one person to ruin it for everybody to never be able to get to go again.
That's right.
So, and as far as Relic Risers, thank you very much for the super chat. Much appreciated. And then he said that's for Big Teeth. Much appreciated, my friend. Um, the There's something to be said for doing it right, and I think that a lot of states, like the state of Maryland, you cannot look for an artifact under the water at all. Um,
Yeah, it's wild.
and to me, that's it's almost shameful. It's
Yeah, I
shameful
mean,
to
it's
think that
just
somebody would be
wasteful.
so upset that you went and found something that, as long as people would do it correctly, you wouldn't have an issue with it.
That's exactly right. I mean, you would think they would want people to find it and it go into their history instead of it just being lost with time. But
I mean, you look at some of the underwater discoveries that have been made. Like, let's take the Hunley example. Um, that was found in North Carolina, right? Um,
it was found here
well, yeah, it
in
was found in
Charleston.
Charleston, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, but that's rewriting the history books.
Absolutely.
You, you know, um, So it's really interesting, and I think that's something that we all kind of have in common when we talk about whether it's metal detecting or fossil hunting or whatever it might be. You know, it's it's really interesting. So, I guess a couple other things I want to ask you. Where do you see the future of fossil hunting around you? Like, do you see any new technology, or is there something on the horizon that's going to make it better?
You know, I've read books about the Charleston area that different paleontologists and people in the scientific side of it have written, and there's one quote that I try to always remember, and one guy said that we haven't dusted the first layer off of here, so
Wow.
that makes me think that there's a lot of future, you know, and that we'll never do it. We'll never knock that layer off in our lifetime if we haven't even dusted it off yet with all the cool things that's already been found here.
Yeah, that's neat, man. That's neat to think about. They're so like the dust in your house. You haven't even got that off of there. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Um,
really a good visualization of it for sure.
yeah, absolutely, man. And I guess the other thing, since you've been diving, what has helped diving or progress so much in the last few years?
You know, I don't know. I think there's more people. What I'm seeing more of the guys who have hunted fossils in the creeks and on land for years, starting to get certified to dive, and they seem to catch on really quick. 'Cause, you know, they've already got the eye for the teeth because you know you guys know it's not always easy to spot them on land or in a small stream either.
Right.
And you know, I take a lot of people out for their first ever blackwater dive. You know, I don't take them out and drop them into a raging current. You know, in the deepest spot I have, but I will take them into and ease them into it till they're comfortable. And those guys really seem to be they seem to catch on fast, and they already have that love for it. So
Uh,
a lot of my repeat customers are those guys who are getting certified, and I get more calls about that than anything else probably
about
that are
certification.
people, yeah, and you know, people that are already either artifact hunters or fossil hunters that just want to, you know, add another layer to it and dive also.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Punch and Plug CF said he spent years hunting quarter-inch teeth. He believes he could spot one that was 5 inches. Um,
Yeah, I believe he could too.
yeah, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. There's so let's maybe we'll talk a little bit about certification. So if you never dove or you've never been in sort of that kind of dark environment, what would you recommend somebody do to get up to the point where they could go on a charter with you?
So, you know, to get their open water certification, of course, but after that, just getting some dives in until, you know, whether it be, you know, offshore here or in a quarry somewhere or in the springs in Florida, wherever it's at, just diving, you know, and getting comfortable underwater because, you know, it's natural to breathe through your nose and you're teaching yourself to breathe through your mouth. It's just a lot of changes, and it takes time, and you really got to know that you can get in trouble under there and that you won't panic if you get tangled up in an anchor rope or something like that, that you'll be able to keep your head on right, and get your shears or your knife out and cut that rope away from you instead of freaking out and something bad happening to you.
Right. Yeah, right on, man. I mean, I think that's good, solid advice. Just get comfortable with anything you do. It's like whether if you went to an organized relic hunt and you'd just been metal detecting the first time, you're not going to do well. You're not going to have a fun time. But if you'd been out for a year or two and then you went to an organized relic hunt, or you went to an organized metal detecting event, or whatever it may be, you have some experience, you have some knowledge, you're going to have a little better time, and you're going to do it in a much safer fashion. So
that's right. I mean, nothing replaces that experience.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So some punching plugs asked if you had a favorite item that you found. I'll specify that. Do you have a favorite non-fossil item that you found?
Yeah, I got several favorites. That's just it. But one of the first nice bottles I found was that mallet bottle that went across the slideshow, the black glass mallet bottle. So that's one of my favorites, and that point that is translucent.
Oh, yeah, that was up on the slideshow as well.
That's one of the first points that I found. So those first items that they mean a lot to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are the items that hook you, right?
They really are, exactly. But as far as all around favorite item, I found one side of a mastodon jaw that had a molar still embedded in it with a root and 5 mastodon teeth laying beside it. That's probably like my favorite dive,
Oh my gosh. How big is that thing?
It's about 30 pounds. I wish I had a picture that I had sent you, but I don't have any pictures of it, that are close by. But it's about 30 pounds, about 24 inches, long and 10 inches wide, probably 12 inches high. It's big.
Wow, that's cool. I mean, you can spot.
That's it's one of those finds of a lifetime. I'll probably never find another one.
Well, you could spot something that did it just stand out as something different to you before you really got your hands on it?
It was. I mean, I swam right up to it, and it was right there. It was after that flood of 2015 that we had.
Okay,
and I think that it had probably eroded out during that because it wasn't hid by dirt or mud or tree limbs or anything. It was just,
just laying there to be picked up.
In the water 5 minutes and just swam right up to it, and there it was.
Wow.
You knew it was going to be a good day.
Wow, that's awesome, man. That's really cool. So, somebody asked about open.
With all this, you just never know what you're going to find.
Yeah, it's almost like an Easter egg hunt.
That's exactly right. I think I told Jonathan Burton that same thing.
Yeah, I mean, or I don't know. Somebody posted something online about going metal detecting for at a new spot for the first time, and I was like, man, that feels like Christmas Eve. Like when you're going to go out diving, it's like this is how I feel. I feel like a little kid, like I'm just waiting to go downstairs and go find whatever's down there, or
go dig under that Christmas tree.
That's right. Go dig underneath that Christmas tree, and who knows what's there to be found, or what's there waiting for me.
Absolutely. I think that's what keeps us all going back for more.
Yeah. I mean, I may feel like a silly little kid about it, but for sure. I mean, that's exactly how I feel. And I think that's the adventure in all of us, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Sifton Shovel said it's like a box of chocolates. Thanks, Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Drum Detect said, how much does an open water cert cost? And that's generally all pretty dependent on your local dive shop, right?
It is. It seems to range around $475 to $525,
Yeah, and that's with your equipment, your dives, your all that other stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's walking out with a cert, and that's not really too bad. You know, it's a little expensive up front, but once you have your gear and all, it's not an expensive hobby.
Yeah, yeah, and you can find gear used, but you want to take it to a shop and you want to get it certified, right?
That's right, absolutely. You want to get it checked out by someone who knows what they're doing, especially the things that are keeping you alive, like your reg and your BC.
Right.
But yeah,
Absolutely.
I know guys who spend a whole lot more money playing golf.
My wife may say the same thing about a guy who likes to metal detect,
Yeah,
who always needs a new machine. So, but you're looking at getting into metal detecting too a little bit, huh?
yeah, I love all the aspects of it, so that seems to go hand in hand with it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
diving's my core. But they make underwater metal detectors.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, uh, Punch and Plug says golf is a good walk spoiled.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a big golfer.
So, anyway, if anybody else has any other questions or anything for Alan, please let me know. We'll ask him. So, how can people get in touch with you if they wanted to go on a charter?
They can give me a call or a text at 843-471-7113. Send me a PM on Facebook. We just got a website up today, so it's a work in progress. Keep that in mind. But megalodondive.com.
Cool. So, and we'll contain all of that stuff right in the description here, and we'll put all the links and everything that you guys need if you ever wanted to go on a dive, or say you're around Charleston, you just wanted to say hi to Alan or any of that stuff. So Kent asked, what type of underwater metal detector would you use?
Well, that's probably a better question for you. The only one I know exists is the one a friend of mine has and has loaned me, that the Excalibur 2. But I'm sure there's tons of metal detectors out there that will do it, and that's definitely not my expertise.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe one day.
So maybe we'll talk about another piece of equipment before we slide out of here. What kind of lights do you use? Do you have a preference? And you're a dealer, right? Do you sell lights?
I do. I sell anno canister lights.
Okay. So yeah, if you guys need any sort of flashlights or anything like that, reach out to Alan and he can fix you up with that. So yeah. Yeah, so mainly what you guys use are canister lights with backup lights, right?
Yeah, the canister lights just give you so much more burn times with these, with the high output that we need.
Right.
There's starting to be some self-contained lights, that with large batteries, but most of us use head-mounted lights, and when you put that battery on a helmet, it's just really heavy. Canisters seem to work really well.
Right. So Punch and Plug said, "How old were you when you went on your? How old were you when you went on your first dive?"
Oh, I was about 19, I think.
Yeah. Is that when you found your first tooth?
No, I didn't. I didn't find my first tooth till I moved here. Moved here in '07. I found my first tooth soon after that.
Very cool. Very cool. So, yeah. So we've knocked down almost a full hour of a fantastic evening.
It doesn't seem like it. Time flies.
Yeah, I mean it goes fast. Everybody's like, man, I can't talk to you for an hour. well, I can talk to anybody for, that's probably one of my downfalls. But it goes really quick. And, when you're an interesting guest and you have cool stuff to talk about and really neat slides and stuff like that to show, it doesn't take long at all. So, Alan, I absolutely appreciate you coming on the show tonight. I
appreciate you having me.
Yeah, it's great, man. And we'll do this again. Hopefully, what I hope is that the next time we see each other, we'll be diving into Blackwater. So, together. So.
Yeah, me too. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. That's okay. We're just a few hours apart.
But yeah, man. I hope you're down here diving with me soon. We'll do this again.
Yeah, that'd be absolutely awesome. So, tell you what, we're going to slide right over here to the side for a second. We're going to close this out. So, there we go. All right. So, a huge thanks to Alan Devier for coming out and hanging out with us tonight and teaching us all about fossils and on the Cooper River and a lot of the local history to Charleston and South Carolina. Super knowledgeable guy. If you're ever interested in diving, to me, I think that he's the guy I would want to go take a charter with. Very cool, lots of cool history, very knowledgeable about fossils and very knowledgeable about finding artifacts and things like that. So before we go, Uper Digger said, does he sell those teeth? Uper, I do not know that, and we didn't get into that, but what I will do is I will put the information down in the link, and you can ask him that yourself. I'm sure if he does, he will probably give you a Gone Diggin discount. So don't hold him to that, though. That's all here or there. So, Megalodon teeth and shark's teeth are the most collected thing in the world, fossil in the world. So, really neat to have Alan on tonight. Excellent guest. Go look him up on Facebook. Tell him you said hi. I personally met Alan on the East Coast Fossil Club. Absolutely great evening. Big thanks to all of you guys who stayed in the live chat and hung out and asked questions and said hello and who came and went. I much appreciate the love and the support. Thank you, Relic Risers, for the super chat. Absolutely thank you very much. I hope everybody had a great evening. And you know what? If you don't have any, first of all, I hope everybody has a chance to go out and find some history this week. If you're not able to go out and find some history, go out and make some history of your own. Until next week, I will see you later. Thanks for watching Gone Diggin' live from the Relic Room.